Hey guys, Garrett back for Sableye the Mind Sculptor with another standard deck tech. So I know I said my next decks would be the commander decks for this set, and rest assured they are coming, but until I finish my March SAT, I'm going to be a little bit busy with studying right now, and I don't really have the time to make a 100 card deck tech. So here we are back in standard. And this deck is based mostly around the card Scrap Trawler, and it is an Esper Artifacts deck. So, starting with the land base, we have Aether Hub, which is just one of the best lands for 3-color decks. Even if you only get to use its color once, that's about all you need in a deck like this that isn't hard on its mana anyway. Then we have Swamps, Plains, Islands, because that is our colors, 6, 3, 3 respectively. Then for the rest of our non-basics, we have a couple of Concealed Courtyard, a couple of Shambling Vents, and 3 Choked Estuary. And I thought this was a bit light. I started with more non-basics and less basics, but then I just ended up hitting way too much of my non-basics, and I cut back a bit, and it turned out perfect. So that worked out pretty well. Moving on to our 1-drop slot, we have Thraben Inspector, Fatal Push, and Renegade Map. So Renegade Map is my only 1-drop artifact right now, and if I could find a better one to replace it, I would happily use that instead, because Renegade Map really hasn't gotten me as much value as I would have liked out of it in testing. But it's what I have. Fatal Push, of course, is just one of the best removal spells. If you can have a Renegade Map, sack it. Fatal Push can kill pretty much anything. Even like Felidar Guardian, so it can stop the Saheeli combo. But it also kills pretty much any small creature out of Mardu vehicles as well, or Jund aggro, anything really. And then Thraben Inspector is, of course, good value in this deck. It just comes down and gets you a clue. Very good speed bump. Moving on to our 2-drop slot, we have Cogworker's Puzzle Knot, Metalworker's Puzzle Knot, and Syndicate Trafficker. So Cogworker's Puzzle Knot has been really, really good in testing. I know it seems like a bad card, but given the synergies in this deck, it has worked out to basically mean that I can have blockers for as long as I need to if the game's going my way. Metal Spinner's Puzzle Knot, of course, is just very solid card advantage when it works. And Syndicate Trafficker is a good way to get artifacts into your graveyard for less mana than is printed on the card. But it's also just a good way to get more value out of that Renegade Map when you have enough land already. Also, getting indestructible at instant speed is very strong on a creature like this, and it can discourage attacks very effectively. So moving on, our last 2-drop is Underhanded Designs. And this card I wasn't even thinking about putting in at first. I just had it in my maybe board. But after testing, it has been one of the MVPs of the deck. This is definitely one of the ways that this deck wins consistently. It's very, very good at just draining out the opponent slowly. And also, it is a amazing removal spell. It just says destroy target creature, which is very strong for 2 mana, especially if you've already gotten value off of it by having it out on the field. I also didn't think these would stack well originally, but if you have enough mana, having 2 Underhanded Designs is just very, very powerful. So moving on up the curve, we have Scrap Trawler, Filigree Familiar, and Trophy Mage at our 3-drop slot. So Scrap Trawler is just one of the main cards that makes this deck tick. It's just very high value. It means that your puzzle knots are always going to be getting back a map, and when it dies, it's always going to be getting back a puzzle knot. Filigree Familiar is good in that it enters and does something, and it leaves and does something, which is very strong in a deck that has a sacrifice kind of theme. And the other big upside of Filigree Familiar is that it will come in and block very well, and it won't really cost you anything, and it can often trade out for small creatures. So Filigree Familiar, very strong card. And then lastly, we have Trophy Mage as extra copies of our Scrap Trawler. Then our last card in the main deck, is Treasure Keeper. And Treasure Keeper will let you cascade into something good eventually. But more than anything else, it blocks well and it trades. But also importantly, it will get you back a 3-drop when it dies if you have the Scrap Trawler active, which could be a Filigree Familiar or another Scrap Trawler. So moving into our sideboard, I think this is kind of a weak part of the deck right now. I've put a little bit of thought into it, but it really hasn't ended up being as good as I would like it to be. So we've got 2 Ceremonious Rejection and 2 Negate to bring in against control decks and other decks that Ceremonious Rejection is good against. 3 Transgress the Mind, which is a good catch-all answer to anything above 3 mana. Gideon Ally of Zendikar is a big one. and 4 Anguished Unmaking, which is a good catch-all answer to pretty much anything which sits on the board. Uh, coincidentally enough, Gideon Ally of Zendikar is a big one. And then we have 1 Authority of the Councils for vehicles, and 3 Cataclysmic Gear Hulk, which I think could be switched out for something else because I haven't found myself bringing it in all that much. So anyway, that's been the deck. I think I'm going to make some changes to it. I haven't really decided on them yet, though. Definitely a better top end would be great. I'm thinking that either Marionette Master or Elder Deep Fiend would be where I'd be going with that. And another 1-drop would be very good as well. Again, not sure exactly what I want. So, I hope you've enjoyed. Until next time, peace out.